Welcome to Commercial Real Estate Today. I'm your host, Wally Conway. Grateful that you're here with us. One of the joys of commercial real estate today is being able to spend time with and introduce you to some of the best and brightest minds from all across the country in commercial real estate from every aspect. Some days lenders, some days brokers, appraisers, and every now and then, when we're lucky, true experts in physical due diligence of property. I want to welcome to the program from Dallas, Texas, founder and CEO of Greenworks, Harmony Brown. Harmony, welcome to the program.
Oh, thanks, Wally. So glad to be here.
Happy to have you. You know, it's so interesting to me, Harmony, as I look across the commercial real estate universe, due diligence. We do due diligence like madmen about clear title. We do crazy due diligence about money with lenders. But when it comes to physical due diligence of commercial buildings, it seems like it's an afterthought. Why do you think there isn't the focus on the physical condition of the building that there is, say, on the business plan or the mortgageability possibly of the investor?
I couldn't agree more. I don't know why it seems to be that people just expect that because they see four walls and they see a nice aesthetic, maybe, that they just assume that all of the mechanical, structural, systems of that building are somehow fine and that they don't need to worry about them. I mean, let's be honest, it's not the sexy stuff that people are looking at and seeing when they're looking at spaces. And so it's kind of oh, it feels nice in here. The air must work, Oh, I can go and use the restroom. The plumbing must work. And I just think that the assumption that things are being taken care of and maintained is just the assumption that's made. And the things that are in the background are in the background, kind of like in the movies. We don't really think about what all goes into making those movies. We just like to watch a nice show.
What's fascinating to me, Harmony, is almost every other type of due diligence in a commercial real estate purchase specifically has a backstop. So if there's a problem with title, there's title insurance. If there's a problem in lending, there are ways to recover. But in physical due diligence, if there's a problem discovered in the building after you take possession, there's virtually no remedy short of litigation. My other discovery has been it's rare that problems are small. I mean, it's very common when due diligence is skimped on to have a problem that's 5, 10, 20% of building purchase price, yet there's a reluctance to spend 1% or 2% in due diligence, not just for negotiation, but to discover future problems.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It seems so worth the money to know up front because trying to deal with insurance claims can be a complete hassle. We all know that there's home warranties, but are there really commercial warranties out there? I don't know. I don't see a big market for that.
Non-existent. The closest thing to that would be a commercial building that was either previously a residence or is constructed just like a residence. Some very small office condos, some of those are warrantable, but once we get above, say, 10 or 20,000 feet or a specific type facility with chillers and things like that, they are not warrantable. But you bring up a really good point about due diligence, and that is the due diligence on who initially installed the various components. Were they warrantable at the time of installation? And has any required service been done to keep the warranty in effect? Tell us how at Greenworks you do that due diligence to look back and say, how did the component get here? And is it still warrantable?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We ask for all of that information up front from the seller's disclosure. That's where we start, right? What information does that seller have easily available for us to go through all of those records? Because if they've done a good job of record keeping, then great. It makes our job very easy to go through that. And then we can sit there and say, okay, here's what the records are telling us of when they've done all of the essential checks along the way to maintain, right, certain, say, mechanical features. And then at the same time, but what they say and then what actually happens can be two different things, of course, right? So we would much rather just be verifying the records instead of sitting there with no records and then sitting here now trying to guess, right? Because now we're just taking educated guesses as to how well these things have been serviced. And when you're coming in,
You
and that's not,
mentioned verification, Harmony. Whenever I hear people talk about verification, I always chuckle. Before you were born, Ronald Reagan said, trust and verify. And he was speaking about other nations, but it's the same in a real estate transaction. You absolutely want to be able to trust the other side. And at the same time, you owe it to the transactions to do the verifications. One of the things we found at Monument Commercial Building Inspections that's really helpful is that permit history. If a component had a permit pulled, and this will vary by municipality, how much information is there, we usually get a pretty good feel of the scope of the work, a pretty good feel of the value of the work, and most importantly, who did the work?
right.
It's the beginning of that trail towards
Right.
seeing, is it still a warranted item? It's just so much simpler when you do that. The in commercial real estate, probably the benchmark of physical due diligence is the PCA, Property Condition Assessment, as governed by ASTM E2018. That's a standard. Why is it so important? One, that there is a standard, and two, that the company doing the due diligence has expertise in the standard to get the information delivered to you.
Oh, you have to have standard. Without some sort of standardization, anyone can go out there and charge anything for any price, right? And you're leaving it up to whoever to determine whatever they want. And it doesn't give any sort of known benchmarks as to, okay, what am I actually going to get for the money that I spend? It also doesn't tell lenders, it doesn't tell investors, it doesn't tell the developer what's going on, right? And what can change at a moment's notice, because obviously building sciences are changing, building codes are changing. There has to be standards to follow. But then past the standards, you also have to get the right people who actually follow those standards to a T, that they're going to uphold them, right? Because if you don't, then now you're missing out on a great opportunity to really know how your building is actually performing against other buildings, because that's what it comes down to, right? Like the value and the money that's spent is really real estate. It's all about comparison, right? And so those standards give us that comparison, but we definitely want to hire someone who's got experience and is actually going to do that right.
We'll often, we use the ASTM standard as the benchmark.
Yes.
And the reason it's such a wonderful benchmark from my perspective is it's a point from which to deviate. If for some reason or another, a particular buyer says, I want less than that, I'm okay with that as long as they understand it's less than the standard and the implications of less. Same token, sometimes people want more than the standard. Environmentals will be a great example. Or engineering analysis. Those things are fine. We're eager to deliver more than the standard. And more often than not, and I'm sure you're in the same scenario, we'll offer more than the standard. Here's the standard, here's the below the standard, and here's the Mac Daddy beyond the standard. Where are you most comfortable?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's key to know exactly what you're getting, what's coming, like what's going to help, because obviously sometimes there's renovations that are going to be done and there does need to be a close environmental look, other times they're going to build on or build up, right? And so then you're looking at some of the engineering aspects of it. You're exactly right. Just knowing what you're getting is super, super important. And I think that ASC, like that is exactly where you start.
It's interesting you mentioned engineering. Somewhere there's a gray line in the sand of where we transition from. We're doing a PCA to we're performing engineering. Knowing that Greenworks is an inspection company, an engineering services company, and an environmental services company, how do you help your customer navigate of when they've transitioned from a PCA to engineering or from a PCA into an environmental?
It really is all about their needs. We ask a lot of questions, right? Because we're trying to understand what that that they were trying to do. And so that's why I kind of mentioned, like, are they planning on doing renovations to the building? Are we going to be opening up walls? Are we going to be installing a second story addition? I mean, right, like knowing where the needs are is where we guide them, and we try to craft the right package for them, because they don't, obviously some things they need and some things that they don't need. And then of course, certain jurisdictions, have certain requirements in different parts of Texas where we are. And so, we're happy to help them get to those answers. But a lot of it just comes down to what are the specific needs of that particular client.
Yeah, well, there's wants and there's needs. And sometimes there's not clarity in that building buyer of what they actually need. And particularly at the, I might say, lower level of commercial buildings, those things under 50,000 feet, in particular, if the building buyer is buying that building, not necessarily as an investment, but specifically to house their building. We use medical center as an example. We end up looking at a lot of medical centers. The expertise of the person purchasing that building as a medical center, if they intend to also be their own tenant, is on medical services. And they rarely know what they do need. So it's really about creating the dialogue to say, you almost got to get back to doctor speak with them. This is the physical exam like you get at the mall. This is a physical exam like you get your family doctor. And this is the physical exam like you get at the Mayo Clinic. What makes you comfortable here, doctor? To really break it down for them. So they do that. You mentioned renovation, something we're seeing really coming to be super popular, not only in Jacksonville, Florida, but across the Southeast, is repurposing of buildings. So we're starting to see a lot of buildings now 50 years old, 80 years old, 100 years old, that may have been industrial type buildings. Very commonly, and one comes to my mind down in Tampa, where it was it's called the armature. They built armatures for electric motors in this beautiful old building. It's probably 60, 70,000 square feet. And they repurposed that building as mixed use with restaurant space and office space. Are you seeing a lot of that in Dallas and elsewhere across Texas?
We totally are. We absolutely are. And I don't know if sometimes that we get picked out specifically because we are trying to be that one-stop shop, right, for the environmental and the engineering, and we can kind of help them understand the code. And their general contractors take the lead on a lot of that, but they still have questions along the way, right? And having one place where they can come to get those solutions helps them streamline the process. And so that's what we focus on, is helping them streamline that. Yes, we see a lot of it. I think it's going to continue as, land is going up, right? Like the price in certain areas we're seeing. And honestly, people are trying to get into some of these more urbanized areas. I think we're going to continue to see it. And so, and that's great. I mean, we're definitely happy to, assist with that.
Yeah, I love those projects. I grew up in Camden, New Jersey, surrounded by old industrial buildings. And you get a passion for those things when you've been around them. And to see them repurposed rather than torn down really does my heart good. Also, and when I listen to you and I speak to you, I just get so many more things on my mind. You mentioned working with contractors, architects, and whatnot. It is wonderful when it's a team approach, because architects in particular have a vision for the future. What's this going to look like when it's done? And they're not always good at assessing, what's it look like right now, amigo? How are the bones of this building? What's going on under this building? How is the infrastructure of this building? Where is it starting from? And what might you need to do? And sometimes those things tremendously impact budgets.
Absolutely. Oh, it makes huge differences. The architect can imagine anything that they want. Does not mean it's feasible, doesn't mean it's within budget, doesn't mean that the work that it's going to take is going to be worth the squeeze. Like it really, really changes the scope of work. We see it happen all the time, right? Where just sometimes what's wanted isn't quite feasible at that time. And then sometimes also it's about the future. Some people do their planning in a way where they know they want to come back and do things in 10 years. They can make energy improvements to buildings that's going to allow them an opportunity to reinvest in the years to come. And so, obviously looking at the construction from that point of view is an opportunity. There's lots that can go into it, right? And it's just a matter of, that's our next that we're going into. We're really starting to focus even on the energy side,
Yeah.
because we know that that's going to continue to be a bigger play as we go along.
Yeah, for sure. I love it when there's that team approach of the inspection company, the construction company, and the architectural firm blending those things. If the inspection company does a marvelous job of determining where we are, and the architect does a marvelous job of envisioning where it's going, somebody's got to build that baby out. And if everybody's not on the same page of where we're starting from and where we're going to, we end up with disappointment, usually in the form of overruns, either in time or money. So it's really nice to be a team player. You were mentioning something that sounded a lot like economics to me. How does a woman go from being an economics major to being the founder and CEO of one of the largest and most successful inspection, engineering, and environmental services company, not only in Texas, but in the country? How does that path happen?
I'll honestly say I stumbled into this, not necessarily meaning to get into inspections. I wanted to get into real estate because I was just looking for a passion. And I truly, truly love buildings. Started out with houses and it has turned into buildings in general. I absolutely love it. I love everything about it. And so they always say, if you find the thing you love, you never work a day in your life. And I thought, well, why not me? And I set out on a path to find that. And I really think I have found it. I love what I do. I love working in this team environment. It's amazing how much people will share with you, what they're looking for. For me, I was trying to solve a need, right? I knew that there was a need, but I didn't know what it was. And so I spent a lot of time trying to find what that need was. And once I found what the need was, then it became, okay, how do I build a service around the needs of clients? And I achieved that in residential very, very well. And now we're taking everything that we've learned in residential and we've been using it over in commercial over the last 5 years. And we're seeing tremendous success with it. And that's exactly why you see us bringing, environmental and engineering and even energy into it now, because we're listening. We're constantly listening to what are the needs. And if you focus on the needs, right, of the client that you want to serve, it really can do, it takes care of itself, is what I say.
You mentioned beginning in residential, as we did also at Monument Commercial. We were originally exclusively residential, and then a dozen or so years ago moved into commercial in addition to. An observation of mine, and when I share my observations with you, Harmony, it's so that I can see, either validate my own observations or hear that you're seeing it in a different way. Somewhere out there is a line in the commercial real estate place that says these are the buildings of engineers. So when we start looking in downtown Dallas, we've got 40, 50, 70 stories. That is typically an engineering approach. When we're in single family houses, it's almost exclusively not engineering approach.
Right.
The fuzzy place in the middle is multifamily housing. I have watched engineers make sausage out of doing PCAs on multifamily housing. And at the same time, I've watched very competent, though very small sized companies in the home inspection space attempt to go into 200 or 300 or 400 units. And that's likewise a nightmare. How have you leveraged the strength and size of your residential group to make that multifamily housing due diligence experience so crisp?
Oh yeah, number one, we start out with the expectation that multifamily is going to be a part of the job. I don't know that most inspection companies do that, but we do, right? We tell them that we are a commercial firm, and so what that means is that we do a lot of multifamily as well, right? Because we're looking to serve investors. That probably makes up 50%
Yep.
of all of our clients, right? And so that expectation in the forefront and the training up front is where we begin. We like to load a lot of the, hey, look, here's the residential, here's commercial, and here's multifamily, all in the first month of coming to work for Greenworks. You'll experience all of those,
Yeah.
right? So we don't make it a, oh, you've got to be an inspector for 10 years before we ever start to show you, multifamily and commercial. I think that that's part of it. And then two, it comes down to building out really tight processes that can be nimble to client needs because they change, right? And so when we start getting into the 2 and 3 and 400 unit apartment buildings, we see a lot of our clients, those are 3-story, maybe 2-story is the majority of it. And that's fine. We're ready. We've trained our staff to do it, and whatever their timeline needs, like we can make it happen. In some situations, that is really the biggest requirement, but not a lot of the building science principles are changing. They're really not changing, right? Very much from a condo to a multifamily home. So that does make it easier.
Yeah. One of the things we've also benchmarked for us at Monument Commercial is the idea that due diligence, in particular in multifamily housing, should never be more than 1 day. So if we sit and say, what are the number of units? What is the scope of work to bring the comfort to the end user? Right. And then backfill and say, how many people does that take? So if it takes 4, we're good. If it takes 6, we're good. If it takes a dozen, we're good. In and out in the same day. And we've found that to really be well received by residents, which is very important, very well received by the property managers, the on-staff maintenance people, and said, look, this particular day, your mission, Mr. Building Manager, is have people to open doors. And I need at least one person dedicated to opening doors for each 4 of our staff, so that we're not standing around. We can almost, I can't say exclusively, schedule what time we're going to be banging on that person's door, so you don't have people standing by all day long and day sleepers. How have you integrated your strength of staff really to be respectful of the residents in multifamily housing?
Yeah, what we do is try to offer flexibility, right? Because so staff size, where we find, especially after 10 a.m. seems to be a favorite, where they don't, and the more people want us to coming in, they want us in their apartments between this 10 and 3. They want us after they've gone to work and got the kids off to school, but then they want us out before the kids have come home, is what we find a lot, right? And so we're very comfortable with that. So we say, okay, look, if you want us in there in this 5-hour time range, that's fine. That's going to require that I send 15, 20 inspectors out. It just depends on what's needed. And if it's done in 1 day, if you can get us the keys to get in the doors, exactly like you just said, Wally, if you can get us in, we'll get it done. Yeah,
and then spend the time outside doing those other things, not interrupting. You mentioned the kids going off to school and people going off to work. I can tell you that has been a challenge this past year, with more and more folks working from home, more and more people homeschooling. Like, oh my gracious, where did this crowd come from? That's been a bit special. Let's go back to you again for a little bit. That I want to congratulate you. You were named 40 under 40 by the Dallas Business Journal. Congratulations on that. And me doing math, I could be wrong on this. I think you got named to 40 under 40 before you were 30. Am I correct on that?
Well, actually,
mighty close.
Yeah. No, I think I was about, I want to say 32. Yes, 32 actually. So we're real close there. My years get a little funny because I went so long without getting a customer when I first started out. But no, it was really fun to join that alum group of the 40 under 40, and really honestly honored on so many levels to be amongst the ranks of those doing that. And I just greatly appreciate, the awareness to the inspection industry. I think that we need so much more of it out there, for people to really understand just how much value we can bring to any building that is being purchased, right? Because at the end of the day, the science that goes behind, either it's home performance or it's multifamily performance or it's this commercial building performance, it starts with the knowledge in the first place, right? Like it's very hard to make educated decisions without data. And at the end of the day, that's really what inspectors are bringing to the table. And I can't tell you how much, I've just had people send me LinkedIn messages going, man, thanks for bringing, putting a spotlight on all of us, because the more that people are aware of how much we can do for them, and, it's going to help us all. So yeah, pretty excited about that.
The publisher of the Jacksonville Business Journal, actually a recently retired publisher, is a buddy of mine, David Selleck. And I was not eligible for 30 under 30. I was still a Navy pilot. 40 under 40, I had just retired that year and I hadn't done anything. They missed me on 50 under 50. They've missed me on 60 under 60, if there is such a thing. And I said, Dave, what's the chance of lobbying the business journals for a 70 under 70? You think that's something that I could compete on? And he said, well, you could probably compete for it, but I don't see us publishing it. So, okay, thanks for nothing, buddy. What are you going to do?
That's good.
One of the things that the visibility that you've gotten it personally based on what you've done professionally through things like the 40 under 40 by the Dallas Business Journal is it highlights the idea of career building. For decades and decades, people in the inspection business, and even those in the commercial inspection business, it was kind of chuck in a truck, a man in a van, one person doing one thing. And there weren't a lot of opportunities to build careers inside real companies. What have you been doing that's attracted the level of talent that you have inside your company? Why is it a great place to work at Greenworks?
Oh man, we are so, number one, we're very inspector driven. Like that is just a culture of ours. We let the inspectors lead, because we trust in what they are seeing out there and the changes that are happening, the construction practices that are changing. We really, really focus on what the inspectors are experiencing and then making that a part of our culture. So that's one. And then two, we really heavily rely on entrepreneurship, because we genuinely believe that together we are going to go further faster, right? The chuck and the truck just cannot do things at scale. It's not possible. There's the same 24 hours in a day, and it doesn't allow for specialization, right? You can't be specialized at 17 different services if you're one person, right? So at the end of the day, we believed in collecting as a whole together and saying, okay, how do we come together? How do you bring your expertise and knowledge in new construction? How do you bring your expertise in historic, right? Buildings and structures, and bringing that in, and how do we combine these things together and make a better place for everyone, right? And then we're leveraging the knowledge that exists amongst everyone, and it helps everyone go up faster. And that's genuinely, we are so talent driven and talent focused. Our team is just phenomenal. We're always looking to grow. We have, in having that growth mindset and knowing that being together makes us stronger. I think that's been the key reason for our success.
Personal growth for the staff leads to professional growth for the company.
Absolutely.
I just so believe that by pouring into folks. And the worst that'll happen is a person rapidly gets to their elevated position of comfort and says, I'm good right here, but we got them to where they want it to be, where they need it to be for their families. And that's a good thing. And then as time goes on, that may change. And they say, you know what, I'm looking for this other leadership opportunity. And all right, let's pour in and go there, go a little further together and have some more fun. The other thing I see when people run businesses with your mindset is the individuals in the company, they live better lives. They can take off the work hat and put on the play hat, because it's not a 24-hour a day burden. We want them dedicated. We want them focused, but at the same time, we want them happy and healthy and being able to spend family time.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. You've got to have that work-life balance. We've got to find new innovative ways to take care of our people, right? It's about their health. It's about their well-being. It's about having that family time, like you said, so that way they know that when they come off of work, things are being taken care of for them in the background, right? We have to nurture our people, right? Because we know that they are our single greatest investment and they're our priority. And at the end of the day, if we take care of them, they'll take care of the client. And that's our sole focus. And I love that you brought that up, because if that is how you lead, right, a very people first mindset and a people first way of running your business, you'll always achieve your goals.
People inside the company and people outside the company, people in the communities where you live, work, and serve. Talk to me about some things in the community that are important to you that Greenworks works. Try to say that. Works with in a philanthropic and give back sense. What are some things that are important to you, Harmony?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we've been a part of the Habitat for Humanity ever since we've gotten started, specifically in the Collin County and the Dallas County areas for many years. We've also given to some of the women's shelters, and we've done a lot of the mentoring. I've got inspectors that will do the boys club. I personally like to volunteer time picking up trash. That's one of my big ones. I'm part of a Trinity River project where I just like to, I'm a huge believer in keeping our streams, our rivers, our parks clean. Right. And so we're a financial giver. We go out there. I try to make sure I give at least, 2 hours a month out there just picking up trash. Right. Because if we don't keep our parks and streams and rivers and everything clean, at the end of the day, it loses its luster. So those are a few of the things that we've been a part of over the years. Then the individual people in our company, they go out and do things. We like to do a match. We tell them that, look, if you guys are willing to donate up to $250 a year, we'll do a match for you. And so that's been really positive and really great. And we hope to do a lot more this year.
Yeah, we've done a similar thing. I absolutely love that. Encouraging a philanthropic mindset for all in the company. You mentioned careers also, Harmony. Knowing more than a decade, a dozen years ago, you brought Greenworks out of the ground in Dallas. You're now branching over these last several years across Texas. You have opportunities for inspectors, for engineers, for administrative staff, marketing staff. You've got a tremendous need for talent as you continue to move across the great state of Texas. What other cities are you in today with a need for immediate talent? And what do you see over the horizon over the next year?
Oh yeah, I mean, we always need more inspectors, more engineers. We are hiring environmental people as well. So right, whether that's mold consultants or asbestos consultants, we're looking for them all. We are looking specifically for growth in Austin and San Antonio, one of our primary markets. But we're looking for these people everywhere, whether it's Dallas, Fort Worth, or in Houston. The rest of the state is where we're going to go next. So we're going to continue to expand. We're going towards the west. We're going into College Station and Waco. So some of these little submarkets here, but Corpus Christi, we plan on being in Corpus Christi probably by May. And then we're going over into the Midland, Odessa, why am I forgetting that? There's a
way out there in the
way
west.
over there, right. we're trying to get over there by late April. So I mean, if we can do it, and get that done, that would be awesome. That'll put us on the path. And then I think El Paso and those areas, if we can get the right talent, we'll go there as well.
Yeah, and folks should know too, who have listened to the show for a long bit of time or are past customers of ours, if you've got things going on in Texas, we'll connect you directly to Harmony. She's our go-to. Greenworks is in Texas, and likewise, we take care of the Florida things for them. And Harmony, we can share with people, we've teased about doing something collaborative in New Orleans. I don't know if that's for the benefit of the city or the benefit of just a joyous place to go to dinner, but that'll be good. You mentioned going to Austin. you'll be happy to know I made the reservations today for our entire leadership team to be in Austin with you when we've got our gala going on, whatever we might call that, in May. So that'll be real good to be with you and Allison and the rest of the crew and get things going. I've got to ask you this. Likely in the back of your mind, when you agreed to have this conversation with me, what were you hoping I'd ask so that you could share it?
That's a great question. I think you covered it. Talking, about our culture and the growth opportunities here at Greenworks is probably one of the things I'd hope that you ask. Just because we really, really believe in having conversations. It's amazing how someone can be sitting there listening and kind of like wonder, like, hey, I wonder if they'd be open to a conversation. We love conversations. It never hurts to have a conversation with someone because you just never know what either you'll learn from it. It doesn't ever happen, right? Where I have to sit down and have a conversation and I walk away learning nothing. I always have a chance to learn. And we love connection, we love connecting with the realtors. We love connecting with the contractors. We love connecting with other peers in the industry. We just love to talk and learn and share. And so if there's anything out of this, I could just say, if Wally would ask me, like, ask people, do we want to hear from them? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, I'm always interested in having conversations about careers, about collaborations. And my end answer, usually at the end of that conversation, is they don't end in a no. I like them to end in a not right now. Because very often we engage in a fabulous conversation, whether it's a person looking for a career or a business collaborator, a future referral source, and right now isn't right. But by gosh, the conversation was so rich and so fruitful. Say, I look forward to when we can converse again to move our relationship forward personally and professionally. Just have a good time. Harmony, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy, busy schedule to spend time with us. For folks who'd like to reach out to you individually or Greenworks as a company, what's the website? What's the best way to make contact?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, you can reach us at greenworksinspections.com. Again, that's just www.greenworks with an S inspections.com.
Greenworksinspections.com. I've got that memorized. I want to thank Harmony Brown, the founder and CEO of Greenworks, for spending time with us. I can tell you haven't spent, coming up on 2 years in conversation with Harmony. Every moment of that conversation is fruitful and enjoyable. You may not be doing business together today, but someday I'm sure that you will. And have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Wally. Have a good one.